1907, 1908, and 1909. The first, Hebrews observe Decoration Day. Ardmore, Pennsylvania, September the 1st. Hebrews, to the number of about 1,000 today, made pilgrimage to the Jewish burial grounds at Marion Square in observance of Decoration Day, and in keeping with a custom that marks the Sunday a week preceding the opening of the Jewish New Year, which celebration begins this year on September 9th. Many came to Ardmore from Philadelphia by rail, where hundreds took stagecoaches to Marion Square. Others went there in vehicles of various descriptions, and many walked great distances. Prayers were offered at the graves by surviving members of the families and friends, and the ceremony was the most impressive one. Right? That's what the Philadelphia Inquirer article said. This one sentence has elements that fit closely into a story that we probably finish for ourselves in our heads.
So I'm Rabbi Beth Kalish. For any of you who I don't know, I'm the still somewhat new rabbi at Beth David, right there. And it's a privilege to be officiating at this little ceremony here. The origin of this ceremony of burying books is that words are sacred in Jewish tradition. God created the world through words. God says in the beginning of Breshit, and tonight is actually the holiday of Simchat Torah, literally the joy of Torah, the joy of learning and teaching, and of this sacred text, the Torah. And at the beginning of the book of Genesis that we'll read tonight, God creates the world by saying, "Let there be light," and those words are what construct the entire universe out of chaos. Similarly, when books are worn out, and when books that have God's name need to be discarded when they can no longer be used because they're worn out, they're old, sometimes they're just not the current model of the prayer book that we're using anymore, and we need to upgrade to new ones. What do we do with all of these old books? We bury them. We treat them, we say goodbye to them respectfully, understanding that words are something very real. We are known as Am HaSefer, the people of the book. So strong is our reverence for the written word that we gather here today to bury these sacred items that can no longer be utilized as intended. We lovingly inter these texts bearing the sacred name of God, so that they might not fall into further disrepair or be subject to desecration. Ki hem chayinu v'orach yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla. These words are the very center of our lives, therefore we will meditate upon them day and night. The Torah enjoins us to observe its precepts and statutes, v'chai b'hem, and we should live by them. Our lives have been enriched by these words and teachings, and we know that though the physical texts have become worn, the sacred truths that they imparted continue to resonate in our hearts and our minds. The world is sustained by three things: by Torah, by service to God, and by acts of loving kindness. So now we ask our community to help bury these holy books. And in so doing, each of us takes our place in Shalshelet HaKabbalah, the chain of transmission of hallowed words that began at Sinai and continues to this day, but must be renewed from one generation of books and of Jews to the next.
By the ceremonial.
This should fill it, right? Oh, great.
I was around with them.